Up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We are live at Duffy's Tavern in the heart of West Miami, 57th Avenue. A Canes iconic establishment, as you can see from behind us, being renovated with the times while still keeping that old school flavor. It is the spot. Football starts this weekend. We got college football, pro football starting soon. Of course, the Canes starting next week. There's no place I know that Pete would rather be, that I would rather be, than Duffy's Tavern for football weekends, just to watch all these games. It's an unbelievable experience. Feel like you're back in 1987. Pete, how are we feeling right now?
Feeling good, man. I can get used to these Friday mornings at Duffy's. It gets me excited for the weekend of football here. We got the Ireland game. Last year was an awesome start to the college football season with the way that Florida State started their season over there. But no, man, love being here at Duffy's, and I was here earlier this week as I normally am at some point, grabbing a bite. So love being over here and excited to be partnering up with them for the season.
Pete, I know you watch all these like exotic, Czechoslovakian soccer games and all this weird stuff. So you go to sports bars sometimes, you talk to the bartender, the waitress, try to put a game on. It's like they've never even heard of sports. It is an epidemic in this country. One of the things that bothers me the most in the world, when you go to a sports bar, they don't know what to do. So Duffy's got an old school solution right here. Pete, I know you've used this one before. So
Dude, walk me through this. This is like you go to a sports bar and you ask for a game, and they never have it on. And then they're like, oh, what channel is it? And then if it's something on CBS Sports Network, there's no chance you're getting that because they're putting on CBS. You guys can see right here, there's a full list and calendar. You got CFL on here. You got PFL, MMA. You've got baseball, golf. You've got everything that you can. I was here earlier. Oh wow, they have Champions League qualifiers. They've got it all. I'm telling you, I've utilized this thing before, and it's one of America's great problems is not being able to get the correct game on a television, the sports bar, but that's not an issue here at Duffy's.
Yeah, the spot to be, man. The menu's got some classics, but some renovations, some new stuff as well. It's the absolute best. Shout out to Jose, shout out to Junior, shout out to the whole team. Temmy's saying, good morning, D-Money and Pete. D-Money, tell Pete he inspired me to go get a new weighted vest. Let's go Canes. You're inspiring the masses.
This is not the first or second time I've gotten that message, man. So any weighted vest companies out there, you want to sponsor the show, let me know, man. I will be here at Duffy's drinking my beer with a weighted vest on. A little counterintuitive, but I'll wear one every single show if we get a sponsor.
Martin Dubé, live from Botswana, says, Pete will one day come with me to Barberfield Stadium in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, to watch the Highlanders versus the Dynamos, the big soccer derby. I know that's on your bucket list.
I will take you up on that, Martin.
So, question here. From Canes 305, will you guys be at the Miami Hurricane team store today for the Cristobal autograph session? I will be there. We'll do a show. I'll at least do a show. I think you're available. We'll see. We'll do a show in the afternoon there before like around 2 or something like that. Just another one because we got to do 2-a-days here. I know 2-a-days are illegal for the football team, but we're doing 2-a-days out here. And then I will be just hanging out at the team store. But yeah, obviously you want to go to the team store. Mario Cristobal autograph signing, Miami Hurricane team store next to the Thesis Hotel today, Friday, 4 to 5 p.m., right there in front of the University of Miami, next to the Thesis. Meet Mario, hang out. It's going to be an unbelievable event. Meet and greet with the coach, the head man. Doesn't do that often, so take advantage of this opportunity. 4 to 5 p.m. at the Hurricane team store. So, Pete, question that we get all the time is when it comes to the Notre Dame series, the Notre Dame game, really a series because every game with Notre Dame. Can we stop the run and can we run on them? So on the first part of the question, stopping the run, I feel more than anything, maybe wide receiver, the other one, I get more questions on the defensive tackle position than any other position on the team. I know there's one name that when I talk to sources, when I'm at practice, I get a lot. And you talking to sources, talking to scouts, just seeing the guy walking around, his name's come up a lot too, and that's David Blay, the transfer from Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, he's really done a good job transforming his body. I mean, added 20 to 25 pounds, so had really good film, as we've referenced multiple times here on the show, against NC State, Arkansas, which if, me talking to the scouts, those are the games that they are judging him off of. They they don't necessarily care that he was first team all conference at Louisiana Tech. It's going to be those games against teams that have linemen that look more like they're going to look at the next level that they're judging him off of. But still, even, at that rate, was looking like, over the summer, third, fourth round type of range. And I think that when scouts now, because as you know, D, a lot of the scouts were here in the spring, but they'll come by again now and get a real look in fall camp of guys who have taken the next step, transfers who are at other places. And Blay is someone that they've been impressed with, just the body type, adding the weight that he has. So up over 300 pounds, has a lot of strength, plays with a lot of strength. And I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I think we are both in agreement that he is going to be Miami's most impactful defensive tackle this season.
Yeah, certainly against the run, I think. And he can rush a passer too. I think the run is where he's really going to shine, taking on double team, just being rugged. He's somebody who, I heard when he gets on you, his ability to use balance, to kind of just move around, be hard to block, is where he excels. It's not just about, beating the guy up the snap and getting in the backfield. He can do that a little bit too, but really when he's on you, he has that ability to just use his body leverage. I don't know if he's a wrestler in the past, but it's that kind of thing where he has that ability. And it's interesting to talk about gaining weight and gaining strength. Usually you don't talk about that with a transfer who's been in college for so long. This is a guy who didn't get recruited out of high school, went D3, I believe, did not go FBS, and then transferred to Louisiana Tech. So he's very much an unfinished product and an arrow up kind of guy. You mentioned the scouts. I talked about how when 247 went up to that personnel summit, which is like all the top college personnel guys in the country meeting for like a conference, that everybody that 247 talked to, not Miami 247, this is the national 247. Everybody they talked to said the defensive prospect, I should say, that they wish that they had gotten for their team was David Blay. That was an eye-opening conversation. This was national guys. This was not Miami guys. David Blay was a name. Eric Singleton on offense, David Blay on defense, according to all these personnel guys. So a name that we don't talk about a ton, but then I think when we talk to people around the program, when we talk to people in the scouting community, it's just a name that comes up. I mean, you would expect him at least to be a day 3 pick, right?
Yeah, I think kind of seeing how well he moves with the added weight will be what determines how high he goes. And then I think with him too, just one of the reasons I think people around the program are excited about him, D, is yes, you want your D tackles to have a little bit of a loose screw, but you also see a lot of really big time talented players at that position not fulfill their potential because they aren't at the same time where they need to be mentally. This is a dude that is very mature, has been a great addition to that room in that sense. And obviously by the work he's done with his own body shows you he's very serious about the game. And just I've heard good things in terms of the character part of it, which is nice to hear.
We have some comments about how this guy, David Blay, compares to Simeon Barrow. It's from Nick Isaac, the transfer from last year from Michigan State. Now, Simeon Barrow was first team All ACC. So that's a very successful transfer. I know the defense as a whole kind of didn't come together, but he did his part. I do think that with Blay, sturdier at the point of attack, more able to hold on double teams, more able to kind of fight for his spot, as opposed to Simeon Barrow was very much an upfield player, a quick player. The guy gained weight in college to get to where he was, and he was still undersized. And I don't even know if he did he get a UDFA, Simeon Barrow? I didn't see it.
With the Falcons,
I believe, but he didn't get drafted, whereas Blay, I think probably more of an NFL type player.
Can I bring something up very randomly that I haven't dropped this nugget? But I'm hearing that Anthony Campbell has made an impression at the Seahawks, and it looks like he might stick around as a practice squad player for them this year.
It's amazing, some of these guys that they just don't fit necessarily.
Who wasn't even a UDFA guy. They brought him in technically as like a rookie mini camp tryout, which is not even a guarantee. So it goes to show you what some of these body types, do for you in terms of the draft stuff. But yeah, Barrow, he was definitely with the Falcons, but I don't know if he's still there.
And you wish we got a little more out of Anthony Campbell, just the body type, man. When you have guys like that in the building, you got to get something out of him. By the way, Steve Munch, you know this guy? I'm mispronouncing the name. I know he's a scouting guy on McShay's show, was raving about Blay this week. Yeah, so Blay, again, I think he gets more hype nationally and inside the building than maybe he does on these shows. Maybe it's our fault. I wanted to make sure we highlighted him and talked about what he does. Obviously, going against Notre Dame, they can run the football. is the kind of topic of the show today, right? Can we stop the run? I think it starts right there with David Blay. Another name that we get a ton of questions about, Kyle noting that this year's defensive tackles are much bigger. Last year's were small with Barrow and Mesidor. Obviously, Mesidor right now is playing the boundary defensive end, which is like our smaller defensive end. So our smaller defensive end, and he's pretty big for that position at 260, but relative to Bain on the other side and Armando Blunt on the other side, Mesidor's the smaller guy now that he's gotten more to his natural weight, lost weight. We had him and Barrow, who was too small for the NFL. So we really, even though I don't think we were horrible stopping the run last year, statistically, we actually were not that. That was not like our biggest weakness. It was getting pushed around. It was more about the confusion on the back end, the too much stunting up front in the pass, lack of secondary talent. Those were the real main factors in our struggles, more so than like we just got big boyed up front. We also were small. So I think that's a good point there by Kyle, that we've gotten bigger. And one of those guys, Justin Scott. So Albert McKinney asking, Justin Scott, how's he looking? We need to dominate. This is the defensive tackle, top 10 player overall in the country out of Chicago, Illinois. Guy who played running back a little bit as a senior. His highlights are insane. Played some basketball. Really athletic. Got here late. Got here this time last year in August. Got here in summer, but didn't practice till August. Didn't have spring. Still played last year in spurts, but now, of course, being relied upon for a huge role. I think the thing with Justin Scott is when you see him, just keep talk about Blay getting bigger. Justin Scott went from looking like a kind of a basketball player type body when he got here late to now, and he didn't get here late because of anything he did wrong. It was just the Catholic school he was at didn't let him graduate, similar to like a Bryce Fitzgerald. But now with the full year, he just looks bigger. He looks like a top 10 player in the country just when you just look at him, how much he's developed to go along with his athleticism.
Yeah, I think it's just about consistency with him, and that's what it is with a lot of these young, talented defensive tackles. He's the sort of guy that I think you'll see flash across your screen a bunch this year. He's going to have some wow moments for sure, especially I think in the pass rush and just that the quick first step that he brings. You just want to see it consistently from him, I would say.
Well, he reminds me of maybe not as tall, but I think of like a Caleb Banks at UF. And Caleb Banks looks like $1 million, very athletic, didn't do anything against Miami, completely neutralized, but did have very good second half of the year tape against the SEC teams he played, projected late first or early second, maybe even a higher first round pick, depending how he plays. I think with Justin Scott, Justin Scott's a second-year player. Caleb Banks is entering his fifth year, so Caleb Banks was a very, very slow burn. Hopefully Justin Scott's a first rounder in the NFL by that point. But those guys that are big and athletic, they always, if they're working hard, even in Banks' cases, I don't know if he's a hard worker, he's just getting older. But as they mature, man, those guys with that pure ability just get so much better over time and impact the game. So Justin Scott, I think my biggest concern, not concern, but just thing I'm looking for with him is like, just get him on the field. Let him play, let him make plays, and he's going to play a ton this year. He's either going to be a starter or the first one off. Those three are basically interchangeable starters. We'll talk about Moten in a second. But I think the more he plays, the more plays he makes, he's going to start looking like that first rounder, because the Caleb Banks of the world, those guys that just don't have, those guys that have those physical characteristics other people don't have, they're rare. And Justin Scott, certainly in that category, I think he's going to have a really, really impactful year. The more he plays, I think the better he's going to get.
Talk about a lot of these guys who they put on weight. One of those guys who dropped weight is Ahmad Moten, who said he played last year around 310, 312, down to the 300, 305 range. And I think it was Eric McLean who said that Moten was someone who really impressed him with his quickness getting into the backfield. So, people who have been around who aren't, necessarily Miami people have gotten excited about him. And you mentioned it's going to kind of be a three-man rotation there.
Oh, yeah, no question. The other guy there is Ahmad Moten, like you mentioned. I interviewed him for Storm Sessions. He did an unbelievable job on that. He was a really, really cool guy to talk to his family. A lot of personality, a lot of just positive energy out of Moten. He's a lively guy, which is, you like those defensive tackles. Some of them are going to be quiet. Some of them are going to be nasty kind of guys, at least on the field. And some are going to be more of those kind of effervescent guys that make plays. I put Moten in that category. He's just a lot of energy. He's slimmed down. He looks like he's a big player naturally, but he's slimmed down. He's going to be very, very disruptive in the backfield. I think you talk to people and you ask, who's the best pass rusher? Who's the best first step? The name I hear the most is Ahmad Moten. And this is somebody who has been here 4 years. So he's mature in terms of his body, mature in terms of his mind. He just had a son. So I think all the arrows are pointing up with Ahmad Moten. he's someone that talked to people again in the building. Very, very excited what he can do. And I think his role is going to be very much quickness, getting upfield, causing havoc with that first step, which is what he brings to the table. I think is pretty different.
Kyle asking if Moten can be a late round draft pick. I never discount anything with defensive tackles, especially someone like him who is a good athlete. So yeah, I don't see why not. It's not necessarily a position that you need a ton of production to get drafted. And if we're talking about a late round draft pick, he's got the talent to be that. It's just he's had limited film to this point, right? And in his career, if you're a scout, but he's definitely on the radar.
Yeah, no question. I mean, with his ability to get in the backfield, rush the passer, the things he does well are the things the NFL tends to value. Those 350-pound pluggers are kind of out of style in the NFL. It's much more about your athletic ability, your ability to make guys miss, in terms of just being hard to block, being quick, and getting upfield. I think Moten brings you that with NFL size. His brother got, I think, a cup of coffee. He was on the Dolphins practice squad, I want to say. He was in camp and had a chance there. But with Ahmad, I think he has more athletic ability than his brother, and that's going to give him a better chance to get to the NFL. Although, of course, nothing will make him get a better chance for the NFL than having a great season here for the Miami Hurricanes at defensive tackle. And I think he can. I think those three, you're going to be in very good shape. And then you get to the fourth one, and it's going to be an experienced guy. But one thing we talk about is I've heard people say, we don't have an experienced fourth defensive tackle. We don't have a guy on the fourth defensive tackle that what they're going to do. They're all young guys that are more improving. And what I say to that is there is no team in America that has a proven fourth defensive tackle. That doesn't exist. That's not how this thing works. The reason is because of the portal, your depth transfers out and gets paid a lot of money, particularly the defensive tackle position. You saw Josh Horton, who didn't even play here, he was always hurt, transferred to Georgia because they need as many guys as they can get. Texas paid a ton of money for a lot of kind of very average defensive tackles. They got the guy from Syracuse, which is a solid player, good freshman. But everybody else that they got doesn't really play for the team that they got them from. They're like, these are legitimately average to below average players, just they have the body type that they needed because Texas needed bodies. This Texas is the number one team in the country ranking-wise. So everybody has this issue. Alabama, Ohio State, all kind of fighting for this. Texas took Ohio State's top backup. Not even top backup. Texas took Ohio State's backup. They got Hero Khan, and we did a whole video on it for group chat. He didn't even play. He wasn't even in the rotation, really. So that's what's the lay of the land at defensive tackle. So for Miami, you just got Damian Lewis as defensive tackles coach. Miami, great. And you are hoping that he's going to get one of these young guys, and we'll go through all four of them, ready to play. Kyle pointing out Clemson lost their fourth defensive tackle to Michigan, Trey Williams. That's just how it is, man.
And I'll say, too, that it's another point we've brought up a lot, but you're going to see a lot of Ruben Bain. You're going to see a lot of Blunt in pass rushing situations there. And just talking to people inside as much as I've said it a bunch, I know you've maybe you've said it. I don't want to put a take out there that you haven't actually made, but this defense is not really looking for 325-pound defensive tackles. That's not what Corey Heatherman wants. The question, I guess, becomes once you get into those games eventually that you're facing some teams that have the guys inside, like a Clemson, like some of these teams that you'd potentially see in the playoffs, then is that going to be enough? Are you going to be able to maneuver that? That's a question I guess we can talk about down the line.
But look, in the first game, we're going to be playing the best running game we're going to play all year. Yeah. I mean, Clemson up front, to me, is weak. I think Clemson's run offense and run defense, in my opinion, are subpar. I don't think they're as physical as they're being made out to be in the press. Not even against the run on defense, and their offense, they just lost Phil Maffa. I don't think they're going to run the ball particularly well. Their offense is so good, they'll be effective at times, but they're not going to line up and pound you. So I think really Notre Dame is the team. At Florida, they're whatever, average. So really Notre Dame is the team that's going to be able to run the ball on anybody in the country. Can you stop that run? And again, I think you can do it.
Got a comment here, D.
Look at that from Jose Toledo Jr. Thought he was working out here. He's running this place. We're about to open. Place looks phenomenal. He just put up a baseball giant thing over there. He's got all the UTVs coming in. He's got enough stuff to do, Jose, and he's still tuning in to the show while he's working there. Duffy's in the back. He says,
"Did we mention that the new TVs?
Oh yeah,
next week.
New TVs. By the way, Jose is not just the general manager of Duffy's Tavern, also football coach They're the #1 academic institution in South Florida, Blend Jesuit. He says, interesting that the DT or edge body type are very different than in the league. That is D-Lou and JT's vision. That's right. Again, these are all different sports and different roles. And I think what's interesting here, to Jose's point, is, we have multiple defensive end body types, and some of those defensive end body types can play inside. And I think before we even get to Dante Simpson, Artavius Jones, Dalen Russell, guys like that, I got to highlight Armando Blunt, because I really believe that his ultimate position is going to be defensive tackle. He's only 18 years old. He's already big and physical. He's already knocking top offensive linemen on their butt. Former shot put placer at State as a freshman. Just a ton of power. He's like, I don't know, he's 265 right now, and the guy's got a six-pack. He's 100%, in my view, a future inside guy, just because of not because he can't play outside, just because of how dangerous and dominant he could be inside. We know pass rushers, interior, get paid more in the NFL. Look at Kalachi Kancey, who's small. Armando Blunt's way bigger than him, and that guy just got picked first round, making an impact for the Bucs. So the ability to rush the passer, be explosive, I think is big. But some people are going to hear that and say, oh, does that mean Armando Blunt's too slow to play outside? Pete, you know this. I mean, I think if you lined up Armando Blunt, Ruben Bain, and Mesidor, the defensive ends that he's competing with, I think he wins that race. I mean, Ruben Bain's a stud. He's going to be, in my opinion, the best edge in the country. I'm not saying anything negative about him. I'm just saying in terms of like a race, like a lineup, I think Blunt's the fastest of all three of those guys.
Yeah, I don't know that it's particularly close either.
Yeah, he can run. You said, you reported on the work that he was running with linebackers in practice.
Yeah, outrunning them. So again, you can make your guesses as to who he is outrunning there. I think there's some guys there that he's not going to outrun, but
yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. Bucks of Plenty says, I think Mr. Bain will get passed up. I would not bet on that, man. You talk to people around the program about Ruben Bain and just what I've seen in practice. It's not just can he get back to being Ruben Bain that we know and that we saw in flashes last year. I think this guy could be the best player in the country on the defensive side of the ball, Ruben Bain. So I wouldn't be too concerned about old Ruben Bain. I think he is going to be just fine. He's an outstanding player. But yeah, so Peyton Lowe's another one that can work inside as well. There's a few. Bain, Mesidor. I think Mesidor probably with his weight loss, you want to keep him outside. Although he played tackle last year, so obviously he can't do it. But the pure defensive tackles, Pete, these are guys that I think are on the right track, being coached well. We got, let's say there's 4 of them. I want to start with Dante Simpson, true freshman, guy you don't want to rely on. But, man, he did a really, really nice job in spring when I first saw him. Worked through some injuries, now fully healthy, quick, big, really, to me, a hit as a 3-star defensive tackle, and someone that he's only, to me, going to get better and better.
Yeah, really, really like his upside. I think who was it, On3 just put him as a preseason freshman All-American, which, that might be a bit ambitious, I think, just because I don't know that he's going to play enough to get like freshman All-American type numbers. I think personally, I still think he's the favorite to be we'll call it DT5 in terms of the snaps, because we're talking about all these other guys, but I think he's, in terms of pure defensive tackles, he's probably going to be the 4th one up. He's I think shown enough to this point that they feel comfortable, especially, again, I don't know how much he's going to play against a Notre Dame, but you get into this, 2nd, 3rd games of the year, you can start to rotate a little bit more, and maybe by that Florida game, he's a real part of that rotation. But I think, body type wise, he's put on a lot of good weight. He's still a baby in a sense. He's one of those younger guys. So year or 2 from now, I think this is a guy who's a very big part of this defensive tackle rotation for Miami. Look, not everyone's going to be a top 10, future top 10, top 15 pick. I'm not limiting what his potential is, but at the same time, you need to get good players at important spots like D tackle. And like you said, in terms of a hit, he's not a bust. He's got something to him. So what the ceiling is, we'll see here over time. But it's nice to think that he's going to be, I think, a part of that rotation.
Yeah, and I want to then focus on 2 guys that are different type of players, which are Artavius Jones out of Blountstown, Florida, there in the Panhandle, Dalen Russell out of Miami Columbus, Pete's alma mater, Cristobal's alma mater. So with Jones, he kind of reminds me of Tommy Kinsler, who another guy came from not exactly the same part of Florida. Kinsler was from Ocala, north central Florida. Jones is from the Panhandle, but just guys that I think are they're more rural areas. They're just like they're going to develop to me later, and they're going to be really, really, really impactful players because of their physical ability, because of their athleticism, the IQ. They're guys that I think it's going to be a slower burn, but when it burns, it's going to burn bright. Tommy Kinsler, you're seeing that this year, right? As far as coming into his own, I think Jones is on that trajectory. But again, it's not a guy with the Miami Central. There's not a guy with the St. Thomas Aquinas. So it takes a little bit of time to acclimate. I think the reward will be very good there. Dalen Russell, the guy, did go to a big school in a big city. And I think with him, it was more about his body. He was a really, really good player for Columbus, stand-up guy, like literally a stand-up rusher, played defensive tackle as well. One of the best players on their team. A lot of people said he was the best player on the team.
It was Dade County Player of the Year, right? Or Defensive Player of the Year.
So the question with him was more about the body. And I was there with a friend walking through campus, someone who works for UM, and I asked, like, who is that? Because I didn't recognize him just walking down in the street clothes. Like, oh, it's Dalen Russell. And he looked much, much bigger, more physical. So he's a guy that I think is, again, maybe Artavius Jones, probably more physically gifted as far as the athletic stuff and just being naturally big and strong, power lifter in high school. Whereas I think Dalen Russell is somebody who, once the body kind of hit, the player was already there.
45, 50 pounds, man, since he left high school. So the huge gains there. And I think you said it best earlier in the summer when we were talking about Russell. He's the type of guy that South Florida player who goes to you saw Kalijah Cansey at Pitt. You saw, I don't think it's going to be to that extent. I don't think he's a future first round pick, but you saw Kalijah Cansey go to Pitt. You've seen guys go to Louisville over the years.
And he's bigger than Cansey.
Yeah, he is. But I'm just saying
that type. He was a Louisville, Nebraska, were the two teams that he chose.
Cansey was like 280, high 270s at the combine. I want to say I'll look that up. But yeah, he's bigger than that. But my point is, year 3 or 4, you forget about those guys, and then they're popping up at one of these schools, and you're like, man, that guy's a good player. We need some D tackles. Why isn't he here? And again, I think he can be a valuable part of your rotation moving forward here. It's a position that, there's going to be injuries as well because of the physical nature of it, and he's worked himself into a mix here where he can be a contributor.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see what he can do. Micah Newton, another one we didn't name because he missed spring with an injury. There's a guy from Newberry, Florida, really athletic, productive player, but they need to put on some weight. Strong kid that didn't have a bad body at all. He was actually quite lean in high school. He just needed to actually just put pounds on, put body armor on, put some weight on. And that process is going well. I think the injury might have set him back a little bit, but he's shown some flashes as well. So, throw him into the mix as a talented defensive tackle. So this is a group that, again, you don't want injuries. I don't think anybody in the country, no one wants injuries, period. But I think most teams in the country are kind of holding their breath that their top 3 defensive tackles don't get hurt. Notre Dame is a team that's going, Notre Dame has a similar issue with probably less high-end talent at defensive tackle than we have. And they don't want to see any of those guys go down. So far, so good. Got to stay healthy there. I think there's some young talent on the way up. And I think there's guys with versatility that can really help.
I want to hit this one question or comment real quick, from Bucks of Plenty Gaming, saying D lineman reclassifying never ends well. Really, we kept hearing about Nigel Lee Kelly's age, and he could never turn it on. Wish Blunt didn't reclassify. I gotta say, I said this on the show last year. That was a slight concern for me as well. But I think it's a case by case basis. What are these guys' mentality? What's the work ethic like when you get there? Armando Blunt has put in a tremendous amount of work, and he didn't hit the portal. I think what happens is a lot of guys, when they reclassify, they're expecting to play year 1. And even though Blunt didn't play a whole lot last year, was in the weight room, was impressing in practice a lot. And he did the work he needed to do where now he's in a real position to play. And he's essentially a redshirt freshman. I don't think you're going to have 3 more years of him. You'll probably have a couple more years of him. But my point is, like, it all depends on the kid. And with him, I have no real concerns about that. If anything, it becomes a huge advantage because now he's been in the system for a year. And like, if he stayed in high school and came in this year, he would be nowhere near where he is right now, ready to go.
No, and he's still only 18 years old, which is the good part about it. Is like he's still so young, he's so talented. But I just think it was a situation where there was nothing left for him to do. I mean, he already graduated valedictorian, reclassifying. So not only did he have the credits to graduate, he was the valedictorian. But he had 14 sacks as a senior, as a junior, 10 games. What's he going to do? He's already a 5-star. So, like, from his standpoint, high school was too easy academically and athletically. So he was kind of ready for that next step. I agree with you, Pete. It kind of depends on the kid. Malachi Tony's one that reclassified, different position, but I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll. Mentally, he is like elite. So I think those guys that are mentally at the top shelf, which a lot of these guys are, those are the ones that, whether they reclass or not, those are the ones you just kind of bet on to figure it out, because I always talk about the mental part of this, and people probably roll their eyes, but there's a reason I do, especially when it comes to playing early. You can be the best athlete in the world. You can be the biggest guy in the world, but the mental is mostly what's going to determine who gets on the field early at this level, where everybody you recruit, especially those 5-star guys, they have the athletic chops. It's more about the mental, and I think Blood had that in spades. Still maniac when it comes to the whistle blowing and try to knock someone's head off, but I think the maturity and the discipline off the field is what allows him to get through that hurdle of reclassing.
Get to this last one real quick before we go to linebacker. 904 Hurricane asking us to compare Justin Scott to Leonard Taylor and Nesta Silvera. I mean, just real quick, Justin Scott's probably about 20 pounds heavier than what Leonard Taylor played at Miami right now. Athletically probably pretty similar in terms of just like burst, get off, and like fluidity and movement, but Scott's way bigger than him. I'll tell you, if you gave Justin Scott some of that Nesta nastiness, you'd have a top 5 pick in the future. Not saying Scott's not nasty, but that was Nesta's special trait. Nesta was a bulldog, and obviously ended up having an awesome last season there at Arizona State. Scott is a different level in terms of his size. Like he's bigger than he is, and that's what I would say is the biggest difference.
No doubt about it. I think those guys are 2 guys in the NFL. It's crazy to say, because you remember them as disappointments given where they were as recruits and what they produced. Obviously, all 5-star players, I understand that comparison. I think Leonard Taylor is going to play a big role for the Jets this year. Undrafted free agent for a reason. He just didn't do well in the post-draft process or pre-draft process. Didn't have a great last year. But I think you're seeing his talent now as an NFL player, where he's going to be part of that Jets rotation on the defensive line. Nesta Silvera's played. He got drafted. I don't know where he's at now. He kind of does some stupid stuff, like on the sidelines.
I think 49ers.
Right. So but Justin Scott, talent-wise, I would put certainly at a higher level than Silvera, just a longer, more talented, bigger, more athletic player. And then with Leonard Taylor, not necessarily more athletic. Leonard Taylor's athleticism is what got him where he was. But I think Scott's similar athleticism and then bigger, just like you said, just more size. So talent-wise, you stack all those 3, which are all the 3 5-star, basically top of the chain defensive tackles. The best one of those talent-wise, in my opinion, would be a Justin Scott.
All right. You have something you want to talk about before we get to linebacker?
Well,